As someone who's been working remotely for years, I've experienced firsthand the challenges that come with it. Today, I'm going to share the realities of remote work that often get overlooked in the conversation about workplace flexibility. Picture this: you wake up, make coffee, and settle into your home office. No commute, no dress code, just you and your tasks. Sounds ideal, right? But beneath this seemingly perfect setup, there's a growing concern among experts about the hidden costs of remote work. While we often hear about the benefits of flexibility and work-life balance, there's a darker side that's rarely discussed. From the erosion of workplace relationships to an epidemic of isolation, remote work is fundamentally changing how we connect and communicate. In this video, we'll explore these overlooked challenges and their potential long-term impacts on our professional and personal lives. You might be thinking, how bad can it really be? We have all these great communication tools now, but the truth is, these tools aren't enough to replace the depth of relationships we used to build in person. Let's talk about how remote work is changing the way we interact with our colleagues. Remote work has significantly altered our communication patterns. A study of over 61,000 Microsoft employees found that working from home caused workers to become more siloed in how they communicate. They engaged in fewer real-time conversations and spent less time in meetings. Now, you might think fewer meetings sounds great, but there's a catch. These changes can make it harder for a remote workforce to acquire and share new information. Think about it. When you're in an office, you might overhear a conversation that sparks an idea or bump into someone in the hallway and solve a problem. These spontaneous interactions are crucial for innovation and collaboration. But in a remote setting, these opportunities are rare or non-existent. This shift is particularly tough on new hires. Imagine starting a new job and never meeting your coworkers face-to-face. How do you build those relationships that are so important for your career? As management experts have noted, having good relationships with colleagues is key to building a rewarding and effective work experience. But remote work has made it more challenging to establish these connections. The impact on collaboration is significant. Teams are struggling to exchange ideas, make decisions collaboratively, and ask and answer questions effectively. Remote workers report difficulties in problem solving and being creative compared to their in-office peers. This isn't just about missing out on water cooler chats. It's about the quality of our work and our ability to innovate. Trust is another casualty of remote work. Face-to-face interactions are crucial for building trust, but they're harder to achieve in a remote setup. Research indicates that trust is harder to establish over video compared to in-person interactions. And let's not forget about the dreaded misinterpreted email. These miscommunications can cause significant stress among remote workers. So what does this mean for our daily work life? It means we're missing out on those small moments that build camaraderie and team spirit. It means we might hesitate to reach out to a colleague for help because we don't have that personal connection. It means brainstorming sessions might feel flat or unproductive because we can't feed off each other's energy in the same way. The erosion of workplace relationships isn't just a personal issue, it's a productivity issue. It's an innovation issue, and ultimately it's an issue that affects the overall health of our organizations. As we continue to navigate this new world of work, we need to be aware of these challenges and actively work to overcome them. Because at the end of the day, work isn't just about tasks and deadlines, it's about the people we work with and the relationships we build along the way. Now that we've talked about how remote work affects our workplace relationships, let's look at an even more personal issue: isolation. You might think working from home would make you feel more comfortable and relaxed, but for many people, it's having the opposite effect. Remote work has created what some are calling an isolation epidemic. It's not just about missing out on office banter or after-work drinks. We're seeing a significant rise in loneliness among remote workers, and it's having serious consequences on mental health. Let's look at some numbers. A study found that 67% of remote workers reported higher stress levels, 57% experienced increased anxiety, and 53% felt more emotionally exhausted. That's a lot of people struggling. In fact, 69% of employees said this is the most stressful time of their entire career. But it's not just stress. Remote work is also linked to increased feelings of loneliness and boredom. These aren't just minor inconveniences. They can contribute to more severe mental health issues like depression and even PTSD. You might be wondering, if it's so bad, why isn't everyone talking about it? Well, that's part of the problem. These issues are often overlooked or downplayed. There's still a stigma around mental health in many workplaces, and people might feel hesitant to speak up about their struggles. Also, remote work is often presented as this amazing solution to all our work-life balance problems. It can be hard to admit that it's not working out as well as we hoped. But the reality is, about 20% of remote workers struggle with loneliness, and another 18% find it difficult to unplug from work. The physical separation from colleagues is a big part of this. When you're not in the same space as your coworkers, it's harder to build relationships and feel a sense of connection and belonging. You miss out on those small, everyday interactions that make you feel part of a team. This isolation can have some serious consequences. It can lead to poor decision-making and even impact your career progression. Without face-to-face time with management, you might miss out on opportunities for advancement. The blurring of work-life boundaries is another factor contributing to this isolation. When your home is your office, it can be really hard to switch off from work. This constant connection to work can increase stress and lead to various health problems. It's not just about individual struggles either. This isolation epidemic has broader societal and economic impacts. If a significant portion of the workforce is feeling disconnected and stressed, it can affect overall productivity and innovation. So what can we do about this? Well, recognizing the problem is the first step. We need to start having honest conversations about the challenges of remote work, including the mental health impacts. Companies need to take proactive measures to maintain social connections among remote workers. This might include regular check-ins, virtual social events, or even occasional in-person meetups where possible. As individuals, we need to be more intentional about creating boundaries between work and personal life, and actively seeking out social connections. It's also important to reach out for help if you're struggling. Many companies offer mental health resources for employees, and there are also numerous online support groups for remote workers. We've talked about how remote work affects our relationships and can lead to isolation, but there's another issue that's becoming increasingly apparent: the blurring of work-life boundaries. This phenomenon is changing the way we structure our days and impacting our personal lives in ways we might not even realize. When your home becomes your office, it's not just about the convenience of rolling out of bed and starting work. It's about the struggle to disconnect when your work is always just a few steps away. Many remote workers find it challenging to create a clear separation between their professional and personal lives. This lack of boundaries can lead to increased stress and other health problems. One of the most significant consequences of this blurred line is the tendency for remote workers to put in longer hours. A study by Owl Labs found that remote workers were 43% more likely to work more than 40 hours per week compared to on-site workers. It's easy to see how this happens. When you don't have to physically leave an office, it's tempting to keep working just a little longer to finish up a task or get ahead for the next day. But these extra hours aren't just affecting our work lives. They're spilling over into our personal time and relationships. Without clear work-life boundaries, individuals may feel constantly on call, which can strain family dynamics. Imagine trying to have a family dinner when you're constantly checking your phone for work emails or thinking about that project you need to finish. This issue is particularly pronounced for women, especially working mothers. They often bear the brunt of homeschooling, childcare, and domestic chores, leading to more stress and even longer working hours. It's not just about the time spent working, but also the mental load of juggling multiple responsibilities simultaneously. Peter Dunn, Group Managing Director of Peninsula Group, points out, for starters, blurring the lines between home and work can make it very difficult for people to switch off. A lack of boundaries between your home and office can make it difficult to set boundaries and fully switch off after work. Moreover, this blurring of boundaries can exacerbate existing gender inequalities. Women are more likely to face penalties in career advancement and are often suspected of shirking work responsibilities more than their male counterparts. A study of engineers found that remote work negatively affected the amount of feedback junior employees received, with worse outcomes for women. The challenge here is that while remote work offers flexibility, it also requires a level of self-discipline and boundary setting that many people struggle with. Without the physical act of leaving the office, it's harder to mentally clock out for the day. This can lead to a constant state of work readiness, where you never fully relax or engage with your personal life. The impact of this boundary blurring goes beyond just longer working hours. It can lead to burnout, decreased job satisfaction, and even health issues like increased stress and poor sleep quality. It's a complex problem that requires both individual action and organizational support to address effectively. Now that we've explored how remote work blurs the lines between our professional and personal lives, let's talk about another critical issue that's emerging: the trust deficit. You might think that trust isn't a big deal when you're working from home, but it turns out it's more important than ever. In remote environments, building trust is significantly harder. Why? Because we're missing out on those spontaneous, informal interactions that help solidify relationships. Think about it. When was the last time you had a casual chat with a coworker over Zoom? It's just not the same as bumping into someone in the hallway or grabbing a coffee together. This lack of face-to-face communication can lead to misunderstandings and misinterpretations. We've all been there, trying to decipher the tone of an email or wondering if that short response means someone's upset with us. Leaders report that with more hybrid work, there's less opportunity to build the well-rounded relationships that come from frequent, less structured personal interactions. These interactions are key to fostering trust and engagement. Without them, team members might feel disconnected or undervalued. The lack of trust in remote environments can significantly impact productivity and innovation. Remote workers may feel isolated and less inclined to share ideas or collaborate effectively. This can lead to a potential decline in innovative solutions. After all, if you don't trust your team members, you're less likely to take risks or propose new ideas. Managers face unique challenges in fostering trust remotely. They need to ensure consistent and clear communication, recognize and address the individual needs of team members, and create opportunities for team bonding despite physical distance. It's a tall order, especially when you can't just walk over to someone's desk for a quick chat. Without the regular feedback and informal interactions that occur naturally in an office environment, remote workers might feel overlooked or underappreciated. It's not just about trusting your immediate colleagues. It's about trusting the entire system you're working within. Research has shown that people have a harder time establishing trust over video compared to in-person interactions. This can lead to reduced trust overall, affecting workplace dynamics and performance. It's not just about the quality of our work, it's about how we perceive and interact with each other. The trust deficit in remote work isn't just a minor inconvenience. It's a fundamental challenge that affects everything from day-to-day operations to long-term innovation and growth. As we continue to navigate this new world of work, we need to find ways to build and maintain trust, even when we're not in the same physical space. We've explored how remote work affects individuals. But what about its impact on society as a whole? The shift to remote work isn't just changing our daily routines. It's reshaping entire urban economies and population distributions. Let's start with urban areas. Remote work has hit brick-and-mortar businesses in downtown areas hard. A study using data from 70 million Chase Bank customers showed some concerning trends. From late 2019 to late 2021, the number of downtown clothing stores fell by 8%, general goods stores by 7%, and even grocery stores declined by 2%. Meanwhile, suburban grocery stores increased by about 3%, especially in areas with high levels of remote work. This shift isn't just about where we buy our groceries. It's creating new challenges for low-income workers who can't afford to live in the suburbs where these new retail opportunities are popping up. Take Maria Cheros Mercado, for example. She used to work at a shop close to her home in San Francisco. Now she has to commute by Uber to a new shop location in a wealthy suburb. But the impacts go beyond just retail. Remote work is changing where people choose to live. Many remote workers have moved from expensive urban areas to more affordable suburban and rural areas. This has caused temporary rent spikes in these previously affordable areas. Economists think that as construction catches up with demand, rents will eventually come back down. But in the meantime, it's creating housing challenges for local residents. Looking ahead, what does this mean for future generations entering the workforce? They might need stronger management skills in remote settings and the ability to balance occasional in-person interactions with remote work to maintain productivity and career development. It's not all doom and gloom though. Remote work has potential benefits for working mothers. In fields like computer science, marketing, and communications that supported remote work from 2009 to 2019, there was a nearly one-to-one correlation between the increase in remote work and the rise in working mothers' employment rates. The long-term effects of remote work on our society and economy are still unfolding. It's changing where we live, how we work, and even how our cities function. As we navigate this new landscape, we need to be aware of these broader impacts and work to address the challenges they create. So we've explored the dark side of remote work, but what can we actually do about it? The challenges we've discussed, eroding relationships, isolation, blurred boundaries, and trust issues are significant, but they're not insurmountable. The key is being intentional about how we approach remote work. First, we need to prioritize communication. This means scheduling regular check-ins with colleagues, not just for work tasks, but for casual conversation too. It's about creating virtual spaces that mimic those spontaneous office interactions we've lost. Second, setting clear boundaries is crucial. Establish a dedicated workspace if possible, and stick to defined work hours. When you're done for the day, truly disconnect. Turn off notifications, close your laptop. Lastly, don't underestimate the power of occasional in-person meetups. Even if it's just once a quarter, face-to-face time can do wonders for building trust and strengthening relationships. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, check out my recent video, Why Eating Out Isn't What It Used to Be.